Welcome to the Sage Quest, the ultimate gamified learning tool that turns WGU competencies into epic quests you'll actually love conquering. Master every competency, level up your future. Start your Sage Quest at www.thesagequest.com.
Hey, welcome to the team. We are so glad to have you here. So think of this as your first real onboarding session. We're going to do a deep dive into the really fascinating and, yeah, sometimes pretty complex world of international logistics. Our goal is to get you completely up to speed on what it takes to move stuff across the globe. All right, let's jump into your first lesson, how to navigate the global trade maze. For your first day, let's just start with a basic question. Have you ever really thought about what it takes to get something, say, from a factory in Vietnam all the way to a customer's doorstep in Ohio? It is so much more than just a plane or a boat. It's a whole journey with its own language, its own rules, and today you're going to start learning them. Because here's the big secret, the number one challenge in our industry isn't just about moving things from point A to point B. It's all about compliance. I mean, if you get this wrong, shipments can be seized, the fines can run into the millions, and a company's reputation, it can be absolutely shattered. So yeah, this is the core of the job. So what do we even mean by compliance? Well, think of it like this. Every single country has its own rulebook for what can come in and what can go out. Compliance is our job. It's knowing that rulebook inside and out for every shipment, every single day. You just can't win the game if you don't know the rules. And in our business, knowing that rulebook is absolutely everything. Now, you're probably thinking, a rulebook for every country? That sounds like total chaos. And you know what? You'd be right. Except there's a kind of global referee trying to make sure everybody plays by a similar set of rules. Let's talk about who that is. That referee is the World Trade Organization. You'll hear us call it the WTO. It's this huge organization, over 160 countries, and they've all agreed to follow a common set of guidelines for international trade. The main goal here is to make sure trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as it possibly can. And the way the WTO keeps things fair is really through two core principles. First, you've got the most favored nation principle. Just think of this as the no favorites rule. It means if you give a special deal, like, say, a lower tax on cars from one country, you have to offer that exact same deal to all the other WTO members. Simple as that. The second one is national treatment. This one's all about fair play inside the country. Once a product has crossed the border and paid all its fees, you can't just slap it with special taxes that your own local products don't have to pay. It really levels the playing field. Okay, so we've got the rules for fair play. But as you can imagine, crossing a border isn't free. I like to think of it as an international highway, and to use it, you've got to pay some tolls. So let's break down what those costs actually look like. These right here are the main tolls you're going to run into. You've got custom tariffs, which are general import taxes. Then there's value-added tax, or VAT, which is basically a consumption tax. You've got excise duties for very specific goods, and then anti-dumping duties, which are special fees to stop countries from flooding the market with super cheap goods. Let's dive into the most common ones. So the most common fee by far is a customs tariff. It's a tax that's put on an import, and the amount is usually calculated based on the value of the goods, what they are, and, of course, where they're coming from. This is one of the main ways countries protect their own industries and, make some money. Then you've got these things called excise duties. These are extra, really targeted taxes on specific categories of goods. The usual suspects are things like alcohol, tobacco, and fuel. But every country has its own list. So part of the job is always checking if your product falls into one of these special higher tax categories. And who's the official toll collector, this international highway crossing? Well, that would be customs. Their whole mission, as this quote lays out, is really threefold. They're there to help legitimate trade move smoothly, to collect all that revenue we just talked about, and, this part is critical, to protect society. That last part of the customs mission, protecting society, that's our next big topic. See, it's not just about money. Borders are also the first line of defense, and that means there are a whole lot of checks involved. First and foremost, you've got security. Customs agencies are constantly screening for goods that are either flat out prohibited, like no way they're coming in, or are restricted, which means they need special licenses to be imported. This also includes checking for dangerous goods and other threats to make sure criminals aren't using our supply chains. Next up is protecting people, the consumers. Border agencies have this really important job of enforcing product safety standards. They're the ones making sure that imported toys don't have dangerous parts, that electronics aren't going to catch fire, and that cosmetics are actually safe to put on your skin. It's all about making sure foreign goods meet the same safety levels we expect from our own.
And finally, there's protecting nature. This involves what we call sanitary and phytosanitary controls. I know it's a mouthful, but that's just a technical way of saying we check things like food, plants, and animal products to stop the spread of pests and diseases. This is also where we enforce the rules against trading endangered species.
Okay, I know. That is a lot of rules, a lot of costs, a lot of checks, right? It can feel like a total maze. But don't worry, because we have a playbook, a set of tools and strategies that pros like us use to navigate it all and succeed. One of the most important tools in our playbook is something called Incoterms. The easiest way to think of them is as a universal language for shipping contracts. They're a set of predefined terms that clearly spell out who is responsible for what, who pays for shipping, who handles the insurance, who's in charge of customs. Using them prevents a whole world of confusion and arguments. And a huge part of our strategy is realizing we don't do this alone. No way. Compliance is a team sport. We don't have to be the expert in every single rule for every country. Instead, we partner with specialists on the ground, people like customs brokers and freight forwarders who live and breathe these regulations day in and day out. They help us get all the details exactly right. Now, on a bigger, more strategic level, a major part of our playbook is the SAFE framework of standards. This was created by the World Customs Organization, the WCO, as a global template for securing supply chains against threats, like terrorism, but doing it without slowing down legitimate trade. It's really the gold standard for secure and efficient logistics. And this whole framework is really built on 3 simple pillars of cooperation. First, you get customs agencies in different countries to talk to each other and share information. Second, customs builds partnerships with trusted businesses like us. And third, customs works closely with all the other government agencies. It's all about building this huge network of trust. Which brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? This quote pretty much sums up your first day perfectly. Our job, our real value, it isn't just in moving boxes from point A to point B. It's in our expertise at managing all of these complex compliance requirements and making it all seem simple for our customers. So, welcome aboard. You've had your first look at the rulebook. Now that you're part of the team, the real question, and this is what we think about every single day, is how can we use this knowledge to innovate and make this whole process even faster, even safer, and even smoother for the people who are counting on us? That's the real challenge, and I'm absolutely thrilled you're here to help us solve it.